The NBA season is barely a week old, but we've already seen a number of games go down to the wire under some inauspicious circumstances. Of course, there was plenty of time for the coaching staffs to enlighten the players on better ways to close out games, but that's what I'm here for, right? So let's jump right in. Opening night, Knicks hosting the Celtics and the home team comfortably ahead. Remember, the Knicks are winning by 8 points, under 3 minutes to go. They just need to play solid positional defense and grab the board. Instead, RJ Barrett foolishly gambles for a steal out top. This creates a 2-on-1 with Obi Toppin in the lane. The easy pass, easy shot cuts the lead to 5 points with plenty of time left. Not to be very creative on offense, Tibbs goes to the ISO post-up on the right block, and when Randle lures the help into the lane from one pass away, the correct play is to kick it to Kemba for the open jumper. Instead, he literally baseball passes this shot to the rim. Here's another semi-gamble, this time by Fournier as he comes flying up to almost half court to pick up Brown, who promptly blows right by him. However, Kemba saves the day by stepping in and somehow coaxing the offensive charge call. I don't love this call, although Kemba does get his left foot down before Brown gets in the air and is in legal guarding position. I just think the vectors don't line up. Brown is clearly drifting at a 45-degree angle towards the right block, while Kemba falls angled slightly in the other direction, indicating a bit of a flop. They run the same stagnant post-up for Randle, but this time don't get nearly good enough spacing around the perimeter as Fournier wanders around next to Kemba out top. Randle mistakenly ends his dribble here, and instead of passing and cutting, goes right back to Toppin for the handoff and the impossible corner shot with Edwards in perfect defensive position. With the Knicks getting back well, I dig how Tatum fakes a spin back out top before beating Toppin baseline, only to have Toppin make a spectacular block from behind. The replay shows Toppin clearly fouled Tatum on his right wrist, but the Knicks get away with it and should be sitting pretty with a 5-point lead under 2 minutes left. Inbounding on the baseline, we can see not one screen set as all 4 players in the court just move towards the baseline. Of course, no one is open, so Barrett is forced to lob it up to Fournier, and it's a bloody awful turnover on a very nice save and throw off of Fournier's leg. Finally, the Knicks get away with a straight ISO post-up for Randle, although I suspect this handoff's goal was to force a switch and then go to work on the left block again. But how on earth could Tatum go underneath Randle here? Fournier is wide open to step into an easy three-pointer, extending the lead to 6. When the Celtics reverse it to Brown coming off the pin down on the right side, the ball goes flying out of his hands and out of bounds in a terrible turnover. However, look at the replay a few times. I'm starting to think Randle knocked it out of Brown's hands and the refs blew it. This game should be officially over, up 6 with 40 seconds left, and they attack the double team properly, finding Toppin cutting, but since he was covered well, he kicks it back out with plenty of time. Maybe the Knicks thought they were being clever by posting Randle up at the top of the key, but in reality, it just allowed a better angle for Brown to deflect the pass initially and for Williams to sneak up from behind and grab the loose ball, plus the nice finish under heavy duress. Not a huge deal, right? The Knicks are still up by 4 and can hold for basically the last shot and force the defense to foul them. Randle doesn't get called for this very clear offensive foul, and perhaps the basketball gods intervened because Kemba foolishly jumps in the air to make a pass around the freakishly long Robert Williams. While Smart can't get downhill on the initial pick and roll, when Randle switches and moves his feet, Fournier doesn't get into proper position and allows Williams a cut, and Smart throws the nifty pocket pass for a foul at the rim that kept the Celtics within shouting distance. If you're wondering how Smart made this pass to the cutting Williams, it's the perfect combination of skill and talent. The same combination you get when you use Squarespace to build your website. It's incredibly easy to set up, and every Squarespace template supports all major content types, from pages to galleries to blogs to commerce to calendars and more. I'm in the middle of setting up my new site, and I cannot wait to bring the conversation there with their powerful commenting features and member areas where you can generate revenue by providing an exclusive experience. Their easy-to-use platform allows you to manage members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights to help you create the kind of content your audience wants. You can even add online booking and scheduling. I'm going to utilize this feature to schedule sessions with players who want to improve their jump shots, so stay tuned. We know how important it is to run your offense properly and execute the basic plays. Just like buying a domain from Squarespace is made simple with no hidden fees or price hikes. So click on the link below for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your very own website, you can save 10% off your first purchase on a website or domain. That way, you'll get plenty of eyeballs to your site, just like the Celtics' only chance was to focus on getting a steal or fouling and hoping the Knicks miss a free throw. Coach Udoka followed a common tactic to put your biggest and longest player on the ball to make it really hard to throw it in. But this ends up being a mistake. Thibodeau loves to curl cutters towards the strong side corner, opening up an easy lane with a pass. And when Brown takes the worst path he can around that screen, the Celtics sure would have loved to have had Williams somewhere near the paint to make a block attempt. Instead, Fournier effectively ends this game. Up by 4, there's no need to foul here, just play solid defense, which is exactly what Fournier does, but Brown comes through with a deep 3 ball to cut it to 1. They quickly foul Randall, who makes both, and without any timeouts, this is the time to take a foul and not allow the team a chance to tie it up. They don't need 3 defenders deep in the backcourt like this, since the foul can occur closer to the half-court line if need be, but it's clear by the way Burks is playing this that he never intended to foul, despite the prime opportunity as Jason Tatum embarrassingly falls down. It's Kemba's turn to play this as bad as possible by pulling himself almost into the lane, then turning himself around and not getting anywhere near Marcus Smart, who ties the game at the buzzer. This is the kind of thing that makes me feel that the Knicks don't deserve to win this game, but 2 overtimes are calling. On this pick and roll swing to the top, watch RJ Barrett cut off Tatum, but then turn his back on the ball completely, not only allowing an easy step-through layup, but fouling him to give up the lead. The Knicks turn to Spain pick and roll, with Schroeder's man back screening the ball screener. It looks like he wants to switch this. Smart stays with Robinson, and that puts him 5 steps behind the player as Fournier calmly retakes the lead with this beautiful pump fake sidestep 3. By now, I'm sure they're exhausted, so expecting pattern offense is too much. Hence, Tatum isoing on the right wing, with Smart trying to screen for Schroeder. The spacing on the right side is poor. Tatum drives into it before spinning wildly, getting poor elevation, and unable to finish over Barrett. And this leads to the clincher, another Spain pick and roll. Watch Schroeder sniff it out immediately, and this time, he doesn't go to switch the roll man like before. What he wants is to switch onto the ball handler, and Smart goes to Fournier. When Smart hovers on the side of Rose an extra beat, Schroeder freaks out, despite being in correct position. This freak out gives Rose an opening, and he gets right to the block for the little runner, and the Knicks, despite collapsing down the stretch, pull the W out. Now let's look at the end of the Kings Trailblazers game, where the short roll leads to some good ball movement, and Harrison Barnes is up over 51% from three-point land this young season. With a 6-point lead and 90 seconds to go, the Kings' win probability is quite high. Despite being colder than an iceberg, Dame can heat up at any moment, so Holmes needed to jump out here, but they almost get burned when he leaves to pick up Nurkic, but before Mitchell can recover. However, they survive that action, the Blazers run it again, and Mitchell inexplicably leaves the roll man right at the dotted line. Holmes can't leave Dame by himself on the perimeter, and CJ makes the gorgeous lefty dime to cut the lead to 4. If you followed me for any length of time, you probably know how angry I get when I see a player's shoe come off in the middle of a play. Well, not only does Fox plant that foot behind him and it flies off, he dribbles the ball off of his shoe. They almost get away with it, but watch how Fox, with shoe back on, is just jogging back instead of hustling to box out Powell, who gets fouled and free throws to cut the lead even further. Powell chokes one of the free throws, and watch how the Kings correctly use the whole court. In the last 2 minutes of the game, you're allowed to pass the ball from the front court sideline inbound spot to the back court, forcing the Blazers to stop the clock with the foul. Again, this game should be over. A 5-point lead, under 20 seconds to go, but watch what happens here. The defense basically zones this in order to switch the screens, but keep your eye on Norman Powell. When Barnes goes to CJ, they leave Powell completely wide open. While Covington missed this, CJ hits the runner, and Portland got what they needed, a score as quickly as possible. But here's where I fell off my chair. Halliburton fumbles the catch, which is why it wasn't a double dribble, but then wanders directly underneath the basket, a big no-no, before bobbling the ball again. CJ makes an absolutely incredible save, and now it's a 1-point game. It's the Blazers' turn to completely blow their defensive coverage as CJ switches on to Buddy, but Powell stays with him too. Look how open Harrison Barnes is. Here's an instance where having the bigger Nurkic on the ball might have made it hard to see this, since had the pass been earlier and better, it would have been a dunk. After correctly taking the foul, they've got one last chance. With the most clutch player of his era on the court, I don't care Dame hadn't hit a 3 all game. That just means he's due. This is the prime foul up by 3 scenario, and the Kings don't do it either. They actually let Dame dribble it up nonchalantly, get easily within range, and get a good look that just barely misses. I mean, how are we still seeing this happen in 2021? Foul the guy while he's dribbling. There wouldn't have been 5 seconds left, and it's never happened in the NBA that a team makes the first free throw, misses the second one on purpose, somehow gets the rebound, gets it behind the three-point line, and then actually hits the shot to win. Can you hear me shaking my head? On to Toronto, where the Bulls blew a huge second-half lead, but still had an 8-point margin with 3 minutes to go. The only way you let the Raptors back in this game is by committing shooting fouls, where the Raptors can get points without the clock running. Why is Vucevic closing out so hard like this on Achua? He's not a threat from behind the arc. As a result, the blow-by forces the foul. But if the Bulls are struggling to keep their composure, the Raptors aren't doing themselves any favors on this end. While there's a size mismatch down low, you don't help from one pass away off of Zach freaking LaVine of all people. His clean look should have ended the game, but that's not what this season has been about, sports fans. The Raptors have to go ultra fast, and no one picks up VanVleet till he's inside the three-point line going full speed. This time, Vucevic correctly leaves Achua alone out top, and he opts to run the offense, catching LaVine 2 steps behind the play. And the quick slip of the screen means it's a 2-on-1 and the easy lob for the dunk. Let's hope these backcourt turnovers are a result of early season butterflies. But this is as bad as it gets. Almost no pressure on LaVine. The through the legs inexplicably ends up behind him and right in VanVleet's hands. And now they stop the clock with this foul on an awkward attempt and allow the Raptors to get 2 more points to cut it to 6. With that kind of lead in the road, you want to milk the clock down, and with 2 elite scorers like DeRozan and LaVine out there, have one of them shoot it. So of course, it's Caruso trying to be a dribble drive artist into the middle, and while there probably was a foul here, we're seeing the refs let them play. And of course, this leads to the guy at the top of my favorite players list somehow turning the corner at the baseline and flipping this up and into the hoop to cut it to 4. I mean, what? Well, the refs utterly missed this call, as it was clear in real time, and even more so on the replay, that VanVleet's foot was several inches out of bounds. Just a terrible missed call. Donovan must have heard me in the last possession, because they went to DeRozan on the next play, cleared him space out top, and just said, "Find us a bucket by any means necessary." The Raptors, and the rest of the league, will clearly target Vucevic in the pick and roll as much as possible, and it leads to a switch onto VanVleet. I don't understand why DeRozan didn't immediately shadow the ball on the right block with LaVine in good position on the weak side. Of course Vooch gets beat, and why isn't DeRozan blocking the heck out of this shot? It was right in front of him, he just needed to put a hand up and jump a couple of inches high. This still was the Bulls' game despite the meltdown, but why is Ball just throwing the ball to Vucevic so early, and why is he wandering down the court on the dribble? He must have felt that he traveled his butt off, which he did as that left foot is dragged 12 inches, and decides that since the refs didn't call it, he'll just even things out by literally throwing it to OG. Another popular thing to do in the NBA with sideline out of bounds at the end of the games is to put a guard or two way back in the backcourt to drag the defenders out of the way. But look how long it takes to get one of their biggest threats back into the front court. He finally gets there at full speed, but then fires a terrible pass across court that Caruso easily steals. There should have been one more dribble to the baseline and a dump off to Achua. But the Bulls weren't done with Christmas in October. They put 2 players deep in the backcourt. The Raptors ignore the passer to have an extra defender on the 4 cutters, which probably dissuaded Ball from making the proper pass to an open Caruso here. As Vucevic goes to the ball, Lonzo just tosses it over his head for a dunk, and now can you hear me shaking my head? The Raptors press, and in this scenario, Vucevic is probably better off pulling this out and trying to run more clock instead of attacking early. But they retain possession, so all is not lost, and the Raptors have to foul and stop the clock. This puts the Bulls up 3 with under 10 seconds to go and no timeouts for the Raptors. A no-brainer for a foul up by 3. With a myriad of opportunities to just take the foul and eliminate the possibility of a 3-point shot, they allow Vucevic to get isolated on by VanVleet, who gets this shot off. And while it doesn't go in, and the Bulls are rewarded with a victory, this by no means should act as an encouragement to continue defending like this. I guarantee it will come back to bite them at some point during the season. Let's go to the Lakers versus Grizzlies game as LeBron and company have a 5-point lead in the ball, under 2 minutes left. I love the Russ ball screen for LBJ, and it gets Russ in a sweet spot of his, short rolling into the lane. Love the cut by AD, but LeBron wanders into the area, knocks the pass away as an almost 6 defender, and for some reason tries to knock the ball as a pass to the ref. If they just play solid defense, the Lakers will be in good shape. But Bazemore is immediately not paying attention, allowing Ja Morant right into the lane. This gets the defense in scramble mode, and Jaren Jackson gets the one thing the Lakers can't afford to give up, a shooting foul with points going on the board and the clock stopped. Whenever you get your 3 best players involved in an offensive action, that should be a good thing, and the high post split is an old LeBron standby. With no threat of an outside shot between these two, look how easy it is for Morant and Adams to give them a cushion and blow it up. This flows into an elbow ball screen, but look at the spacing. The defense can be packed in the lane, with LeBron having little choice but to throw up this almost impossible shot. Watch how there are 4 Grizzlies below the dotted line, and 3 Lakers way ahead of them getting back on defense. How is it possible that they can get all the way to the rim for a layup in 5 seconds? Are the Lakers trying to win this game? It was nice of LeBron to let Russ run the play here in crunch time, even if it relegates James to being a spectator 35 feet from the basket. And Russ throws up a wild layup attempt. Luckily for him, Melo played bully ball with a putback. Down 3, the Lakers foolishly allowed the Grizzlies to save 5 or 6 precious seconds by rolling it up the floor. And Bazemore compounds that mistake by reaching in and getting beat and giving up more points with the clock stopped. However, the Lakers successfully challenged the whistle, so the Grizzlies inbounded the ball under their own hoop. Why they don't hit Jackson coming off the solid Adams screen, I have no idea, and throwing this pass was head-scratching, but give credit to Anthony Davis for the supreme effort. While the Grizzlies shouldn't have been rewarded with another possession, AD was out of bounds. There was plenty of time to go for a quick bucket near the hoop, but instead they run a low post split for a tough 3-point shot. Russ made a mistake of going underneath the screen, but they didn't need a 3 here. With a size mismatch, they go to Melo down low in a decidedly old-school way to end the game. This was a good look. Morant doesn't box out Russ, but in true Russ fashion, turns a great play into a clean steal under the basket. After trading free throws, finally we get a team that correctly fouls when up by 3. But after AD hits a pair, they have another opportunity to foul, and here's why coaches don't want to take that foul. Because foolish plays like this could happen, but only because they didn't try to foul right away on the catch. Ja gets into Baze's body, and it's an easy call. Despite Baze's protests, he might have been more embarrassed at what he had done since the replay doesn't lie. However, Ja misses the 3rd free throw, and the Lakers survive despite themselves. And that brings us to a repeat appearance by the Celtics, this time versus the Hornets, who had a solid 5-point lead with 3 minutes left in the 4th at home. Tatum gets right into the lane but decides to come to a stop and pause before rising up into an inside-hand layup right into the mug of Plumlee, who pressures the shot into a miss. In this situation, the offense just needs to run competently, run some clock, and get off a decent look. But we've got chaos, as LaMelo clearly doesn't want Plumlee up there setting a screen. Perhaps they want to attack the size mismatch with Schroeder on Hayward, but they don't throw it there. The scram switch eliminates that advantage, and now they've got nothing but an Oubre 3-point brick. Getting good shots quickly is an imperative for the Celtics, but check this impressive deflection after Schroeder stared a hole at his target. Not only does the ball get stopped, but Ball knocks it right off of Smart for a turnover. Again, the Hornets have chaos on offense, unsure who should be doing what. Coach Borrego is signaling a bunch of things, the assistant is waving his hands like swatting at gnats, and these 2 guys up top don't seem to know where they should be and how they should be screening. It's not surprising the attack is completely bottled up until Schroeder gets the nice strip, and Brown cuts the lead to 3 with plenty of time left on the game clock. With under 2 minutes left, teams can't take a foul on a player off the ball. And with Plumlee being one of the worst free throw shooters of all time, why on God's green earth would they pass it to him? This is the only way the Celtics can take advantage, by putting him on the line. Believe it or not, his form is a lot better than it used to be, but with his distinct lack of rhythm, it shouldn't be hard to figure out why he can't make many. The Hornets get caught unprepared for the press, but finally get it in before running a ball screen, flare screen action for Oubre, which only serves to allow the Celtics to switch their best on-ball defender onto the only player who can create off the dribble for the Hornets. No matter, as Ball steps back for a deep 3 in Smart's face. We're no strangers to Jason Tatum isolations, and he had a ton of points in this game. But he routinely loses the handle during his multi-dribble combos, and his eyes-down attacks tend to limit his effectiveness when he can't find the rim till way late in the shot. But credit his resilience as he keeps coming, and Williams keeps the ball alive till Tatum can snatch it and get fouled. There still appears to be slight confusion over what Borrego wants his team to run, before ultimately settling on a high ball screen that forces a switch. Surveying the defenders, you'd think they'd want to attack Schroeder by ball screening with his man. Instead, they get a switch of Williams onto him, who's long and quick and bothers the shot enough into a miss. While Tatum did have 41 points in this game, Jaylen Brown was equally efficient with 30 points, yet watch how he just stands in the corner the entire possession as they try and get into the paint on the right side before generating an open look for a guy shooting under 24% from three. In other words, suboptimal. With the last shot, remember how we had seen other teams utilize the backcourt on these types of inbounds? Well, it's like Ball had no idea you were allowed to go back there and stopped short, right in the coffin corner. With no one else cutting to get open, Hayward throws a weak pass, Smart easily knocks it away, and now it's Boston who has a shot to win. I've gone over before why Marcus Smart does at least as much harm as good in a typical game, and here's another example as he can't even inbound the ball without it being deflected. This messes up the timing of the rest of the play, and they don't even get a shot off before the buzzer sounds. In overtime, Celtics down 1, they're just randomly setting ball screens out here and hoping for the best, as Brown just loses the dribble on a crossover. A minute later, as the Hornets transition to defense, you can see LaMelo not wanting to guard Tatum, so he calls for Bridges to pick him up, but Oubre turns around and inexplicably picks him up too. And after Ball wanted to switch with Bridges, he never took Brown in the weak side corner. Understandably, he's confused because Oubre left his own man out top. Nice find by Schroeder, an open look to break the tie. Down 3, they need to look to attack the paint. No need to jack up long balls just yet. Watch how this is defended. By setting a back screen for LaMelo, it forces the Celtics to switch. Now when the ball screen is set, they can easily switch this with no offensive advantage. The handoff gets switched, the clock is starting to tick down, and they're left with a wild Oubre attempt to cross the lane, which then leads to the nastiest dunk of the season, as Tatum wisely gives it up and Bridges unwisely goes to block it. Of course, Smart is involved in the last play to decide this game, as his physical presence on ball invites the two-handed shove, offensive foul, turnover, and end of this game. Don't get me wrong, there have been lots of great games with smart decisions and smooth play. But let's hope these teams continue to improve their end-of-game play, cut down on the mistakes that many people don't even notice, and provide us with the best basketball in the world.